we'll start from here. Oh. Okay. So we just went over those. So just to go over the types of stem changing verbs, and we have those that change from E to IE, O to UE, E to I to IE, and U to UE. So those are our types, and some are more common than others. And we have, remember the boot. So I use this a lot, so I thought that it would be helpful for you guys. So in the yo form, it changes, the stem changes. In the tu form, the stem changes. In the él, ella, usted form, the stem changes. In the nosotros form, there is no change. The stem stays the exact same. And in the ellos or ustedes form, it changes. So we call it the boot because the sections that change take the shape of a boot. So that's a little cheesy, but it's a good way to remember it. So just to review the E to IE verbs, and this is the most common type of stem changing verb. And remember, the stem changes, the endings that we learned before stayed the same. So remember the regular AR, ER, and IR endings, we use those, we still use those. So our vocabulary words that are affected by this type of change are querer, and that one changes from the E to the IE. So I have an example here. We have yo quiero, which means I want, because querer, it means to want. Tú quieres is you want. Él, ella, usted quiere. He wants, she wants, you formal want. Nosotros queremos, we want. And ellos or ellas and ustedes quieren. So they want or you guys want. So this is probably, I just want to show. Oh, okay. Okay, give me 1 second. I think, okay. So now we're good. So I just want to give you guys an example of this as to why they do stem changing verbs. So if you didn't have the stem change, you would say this, yo quiero. And that sounds really awkward. So that's why they don't use it. That's why they say yo quiero. So quiero definitely sounds better than quiero. So that's why they do it. And I know I've gotten a lot of questions like, oh, why do they do this? It makes it more difficult. Well, that's why, because like the spelling and the pronunciation is awkward. So for the O to the UE verbs, so I have for verbs in this group, the O in the last syllable changes to a UE. So verbs in our vocabulary that are affected by the change are recordar, remover, soñar, dormir, llover, volar, poder, mostrar, and morir. And I highlighted recordar because that's the one that I use here for the conjugation. And remember, recordar means to remember. So we have yo recuerdo is I remember, and you see that O changes to a UE. Tú recuerdas is you remember. Él, ella, usted recuerda. He remembers. She remembers. And you formal remember. Nosotros recordamos, and you see that stem did not change. Stayed in O, and that's remember the boot. The nosotros doesn't change. And ellos, ellas, or ustedes recuerdan. They remember, or you guys remember. And you can see in all of these forms that O changes to a UE. Does this make sense to everybody? Are we okay with this? And like I said, we have lots of practice. So for the E to I verbs, in these verbs, the E in the last syllable changes to an I. So verbs in our vocabulary with this change are repetir, pedir, and decir. So repetir is going to be the one that I use to conjugate, and that means to repeat. And I always put here the E in the last syllable, because if you look, if you take the IR off, you have the REPET as your stem. And there's two E's. So you're like, oh no, which one do we change to an I? Well, it's always the one in the last syllable. So the second one. The first one stays the same. So we have yo repito is I repeat. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. And tú repites is you repeat. Él, ella, usted repite. He repeats, she repeats, and you formal repeat. And then we have nosotros or nosotras repetimos, and you see, oh, yes. Okay. So, and then remember, you can see that this did not change. The E stays the same. Oh, thank you, Salima. Okay. And then we have ellos or ellas repiten and ustedes repiten. So they repeat or you guys repeat. Okay. For the I to IE verbs, there are only two really common verbs that have this change, and they are adquirir, which is to inquire, and inquirir, which is the one in our vocabulary list. And inquirir, remember, is to inquire. So you can pretty much tell what that means from the verb. And remember that I is changing to an IE, and it's always in the last syllable. So it's not going to be the first one. It's always going to be the last one. So we have yo inquiero. You see that I to an IE. Tú inquieres. So you inquire. So I to IE. Él, ella, usted inquiere. He inquires. She inquires. Or you formal inquire. So you can see that changes. And nosotros or nosotras inquirimos. So you see that I stays the same. There's no change in the nosotros form. We have ellos, ellas, or ustedes inquieren. So they inquire or you guys inquire. And you see that I changes to an IE. Okay. Next up, we have you to UE verbs. And there's only one commonly used verb in this category. Now, there's probably more out there, but the one that is very common is jugar, and that means to play. And that's in our vocabulary list. So we have yo juego, and you see that you changes to a UE. We have tú juegas, you play, U to UE. Él, ella, usted juega, U to UE. Nosotros, nosotras jugamos. So we play. Ellos, ellas, ustedes juegan. They play, you guys play. So you see that U changes to a UE, right? Okay. So those are all the types of stem changing verbs. So we can go over the homework now. And I'm actually going to bring up this. So I can edit this. Okay, this was, oh, nope. So we don't need that. Oh, we don't need this either. I went over that with someone. Okay. Okay, so we went over, let me bring up the actual assignment. So we have that. So we left off on number 5 with we recommend. And right here, recommendar is the verb we're going to use. So we have to take the stem, right? So our stem, that's going to be our stem. And remember that E changes to an IE. And it's always going to be in the last syllable. So the last one. So it's going to be recom. Oh, let's put the. Oh. And then because it's we recommend, it's not going to change, remember? So it's going to be nosotros recomendamos. And remember, we add those endings that we have. Let me actually bring those up. Oh. Let me find it here. There it is. Oh, wait, no, that's not it. It's this. So remember, we're going to use this. Let me bring up. Let me bring up the assignment again. Okay. So we have this. Okay, so that was for number 5 in the first section, because remember we did all of these in the before, just as some examples. So now we can do, let me move this over. For number 6, we have I switch on. So that is what they want us to say. So switch on, that's the verb that we need to start with, right? So encender is going to be our verb. Right? So, and remember, that's an E to IE verb, right? Because it tells us that. Right? So let's take the, we have yo, right? Because that means I. And switch on. Right? Remember, because it's always the second E that changes. So it's yo enciendo. Okay. Let's do one together, and feel free to type it in the chat. Feel free to say it, anything you want to do. So for this number 7, we have you singular begin. So that's 2, right? So wait, they want us to say you begin, right? So we need the word for begin to start with, and that's right here. It's empezar. Remember, that's going to be another E to IE verb. Right? So the word for you, what is that going to be? What's going to be the subject? You begin. How are you going to say you? Anybody want to guess? It's going to be 2, right? You. Well, let's do this first. Let's take the stem first. So M first, and remember, we always take the ending off. So the AR is gone. So that's what we're left with. But there's a stem changer. And 2, that's our subject, right? M, and then the E changes to an IE. So here we have the E, I-E-Z. Oh, that's giving me a different. And then we need the 2 form of the ending of an AR verb. So it's going to be 2. MPs. And then we can go to our chart if you don't remember. For AR verbs, for the 2 form, AS. Okay. 2 empiezas. Does this make sense to everybody? Is everybody kind of okay with this? So let's keep going here. For number 8, it wants us to say, you plural guess. Okay. So let's take the verb for guess, and remember they give us that. Acertar. Remember, that's an E to IE verb. All that's what they all are in the in the top section. So let's take the stem. Oh, remember, we just take the AR off. That's our stem. And now we have to change it. And you plural, right? That's you guys. So ustedes, right? Because remember that E is changing to an IE. So here we have it. So it'll be ustedes hacer, and that's an AR verb, so we need the ustedes ending. AR verbs are right here. Ustedes is on, AN. So the answer for you guys, guess, is ustedes aciertan. Does that make sense? Does anybody need help with any of this? We'll keep going. We'll keep going through these. So for number 9, we have I think. That's what we have to say. Oh. So what's the verb for think? Pensar, right? Now we got to take the stem. Remember, we just take the AR off. So now we have to change the stem. And let me put in this an E to IE, right? So that first E, now we need I, which is yo, and then we need our ending. Pensar. So it's an AR verb and yo. So it's an O. Okay, so it's yo pienso. And the last one in that section is he switches on. So we need the verb for switch on, which ends in there. We used that before. Remember, that's an E to IE verb. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I did that right. So let's take the stem, right? We're just taking the ER off. So we didn't change anything yet. So now we have to change the stem because it's a stem changing verb. And remember, it's always the last syllable. So it's going to be this E. It's not the first one. So he is él, right? He. Oh. Él. LCN. And then we need the ending for an ER verb in the L form. ER verbs right here down to the L form. So it's E. So we're just adding it. Oops. So L and enciende. Okay. And that is it for section 1. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So we did some, let me like highlight these. So that was for section 1. So that was all of section 1. So now let's do section 2. And we did up to number, yeah, we did up to number 13. So let's start with number 14. And they want us to say, you singular return. So we need the word for return. That's the first one. It's going to be volver, right? And what type of stem change did it say it has? O-T-U-E. Okay, so let's take our stem. All we did was take the ER off, right? So now let's change our stem. The O changes to a UE. So there's our ending. And you singular is 2, right? We have you, would. Then we need the ending for an ER verb in the you singular form. So here's our ER verb chart right here. And the you, tu. So es, es. So tú vuelves is your answer. For number 15, we have we renew. We need the verb for renew. That's renovar. And that's an OTUE verb too. So let's take our stem. Right? All we did was take the AR off. Okay? And then remember, nosotros is the word for we. And remember what we said about the boot. It doesn't change in the nosotros form. So this stem that we took is going to stay the same. No. And then almost is the ending for nosotros or AR verbs, right? Right here, almost. So that's where that came from. Okay. So let's do number 16. We have she tries. So let's get the verb for tries. Probar. They give us that. And that's an OTUE verb. So now we got to take the stem. There we go. All we did was take the AR off. So remember, in the stem changing verbs, the O changes to a UE. So that's our new stem. Prib. And then we have ella. Ella prueba. Because that's an AR verb in the ella form. AR verbs right here. We look for ella over here. With A ending. So it's prueba. Okay. Let's do number 17. We have you plural ask. So remember, ask, that's what we need, rogar. And that's an OTUE verb. Okay. So let's take our stem. ROG, right? We took the AR off. Remember that O changes to a UE. There you go. And then we have you plural. So that's ustedes, right? Ustedes ruegan. Right? They ask. Right here we have it. And that AN ending came from right here. AR verbs to ellos, ustedes, you guys, AN ending. Okay. And that's I count. We need the verb for count, which is contar, right? OTUE verb. Let's take our stem. That's the stem before we change it. So now we have to change it, right? That O to a UE. So yo is I. And we take our stem and the AR ending for the yo form. AR, yo form, O. Okay. 19. We have we return. The return, that's what we need. Volver. Remember, that's an O to UE. Take our stem, that's our stem before we change it. Oh, and actually, since we're using we, that's nosotros. And remember, stem changing verbs don't change in that form. So it's going to be volvamos. Oh, no, volvemos. Yep, because it's an ER verb and the nosotros ending is amos. So volvemos. Okay. So for number 20, the last one in this section, we have you singular renew. So we need the verb for renew. Renovar, right? We used that one before. That's an O-T-U-E verb. So let's take our stem before we change it. That. Then that O changes to a UE. Right? And you singular is two, right? We went over that. So it's two renuevas. Kind of a mouthful, but there's that. And then remember the AS ending comes from, it's an AR verb in the to form. Okay. So on to the last section. We did two on there. So we're at 23. And there's not too many in this section. So we have we prefer. That's what we have to say. So we need the word for prefer. Right here. Preferir. What type of verb changing does that give us? It's an E to an IE. Right? So we have to take our stem before we change it. There we go. Remember, it's always in the last syllable. So it's not going to be that first E that changes. It's going to be the second one. Yeah, I can change that E to an IE, right? But because it's we don't even use this. So we can get rid of it. It's we, so the stem doesn't change. So it's going to be preferimos. Because you see, it's an IR verb, and it's the nosotros form. So here we have it, IR verbs, down to the nosotros form, emos. So we just add the emos ending onto the stem. Okay. 24, we have you singular feel. We need the word for feel. Sentir, right? That's an E to an IE verb. Okay. So let's take the stem, and that stem right there, the SENT is before we change it. So remember that E needs to be changed. There we go. And you singulars too, which we went over before, right? And it's an IR verb, tu sientes. Okay. For 25, we have I feel. So remember, sentir is the word for feel because we have that one right here. That's an E to an IE verb. We'll take the stem, and remember, it needs to be changed. Yeah. Oh, I sent that to the wrong person. Yes, Deja, I will then. Yeah. Right? That's the change. We have to do the change. And yo is I, right? That's the end, because O is the ending for I in IR verbs. Okay. And then 26. And this is the last one. They tell lies. So let's find the word for lies. Mentir, right? And that E changes to an IE, just like the other ones in that section. We have mint. That's before we change it. We have mient. And that's after we change it. And we need ellos is they. Mienten, right? They lie. Because en, right, is the ending for ellos in IR verbs. Right here. En. We just add that en onto the change stem. Okay, and that is that assignment. Deja, which ones did you need? Because this is like 4 pages. So I want to make sure that you're getting the right ones. So does anybody have any questions or anything on this homework, how I did any of this? Does anybody have any questions at all? Because I know that this stuff can be a little bit difficult. Or is everybody kind of okay with this? I'm actually going to make space between these. Is everybody all right with these? Yeah, trust me, we're going to do more practice on this because these aren't easy when you first learn them. I know that. So, and this examples right here is actually all on Google Classroom. It's under the STEM Changing Verbs tab. So this is all here. So if you want to see, you know, my process and everything on how I do this, it's there. Okay. Go back. Okay. So there's that. And it's right here, the STEM Changing Verbs examples. That is the document that I was just on. So I wanted to go over, just because we only have about 10 minutes left. I would like to go over the homework for today. And this one's more simple than the last one. So it says practice with irregular verbs. So for the instructions, it says choose the verb that will complete the sentence to match the subject and picture. So they give you pictures on this side. This one doesn't have one for whatever reason, but so they give you the pictures, right? So and I translated the sentences, and I also translated the choices. And the verbs that are right here are the original verbs. So the verb for vuelvas comes from the verb volver. And vuelvas means you return, right? So you just have to pick the one that fits. So yo blank al fútbol. So that means I blank soccer. So is it you return soccer? No. Meriendo comes from merendar, which means to snack. So meriendo, I don't know why they put it in here, but it's actually in like, it's in the past participle and it just means snacking. So is it I snacking football? Snacking soccer? No. Is it yo tienen al fútbol? Is it they have soccer? No. But is it yo juego al fútbol? I play soccer. Yeah. So your answer for letter B is going to be I play. For number 1, it's B. And even for the most part, if you look at these, if you look at these, now you see the subject of the sentence is to you. You can actually look at the endings and you'll know which one it is. So quiero, the O at the end, that goes with yo, right? I. Doesn't go with you, so it's not going to be that one. For B, we have vengo, which has an O at the end. And that goes with I as well. That doesn't go with to. So that's not going to be your answer either. For D, we have dormimos, which means we sleep. That has an IMOS ending. That goes with nosotros, right? That doesn't go with to. So it's not that one either. So if you look at it, for C, we have almuerzas. AS ending goes with to, right? Yeah. So it's going to be C. So you can use it, you can figure these out using the ending, or you can figure it out by what the words actually mean, and I did include them for you. So does anybody have any questions on the homework? There's only 9 of them. You just have to pick the right one. Okay. And these ones right here, the first parentheses after the choices, that's just telling you like what verb these come from. So vengo comes from venir and vuelves comes from volver. So that's just telling you where they came from. Vuelves means you return. Vengo means I come. So you can focus on that. Okay. And I have directions here. I said all you have to do is pick the correct verb for each one. And I included the infinitive form of the verb. And that's like volver, volver, things like that. So that is just the infinitive of the verb. And what the conjugated form of the verb means next to each choice. So where it said vuelves, I put you return because that's what it means. And I also translated the sentences. And all of the verbs are stem changers, even though we didn't thoroughly go through them all. And that's why I included the infinitives in the translations. So it's pretty simple. Okay. And this is a Word document, and I gave everybody their own copy. So you can either like write just a letter or you can write the actual word. Either one's fine. So there's only 9 questions, not a whole lot, but just some practice. Does anybody have any questions on the homework? Any questions? No? Okay, let me just write down. There's a couple people that came in that weren't here earlier. Okay, so we'll go back to our PowerPoint. I had like this whole this practice here, but we only have like 4 minutes, so we will do that probably on Thursday. And I have the plans for next class. We're just going to continue working with the stem changing verbs, and we're going to review the conjugations of our vocabulary, which, you know, that's what we've been doing. And we'll review the homework, the one that I just assigned for today. And we're probably just going to do more practice. Like I said, we'll do these next class because we didn't get a chance to now. I know that this stuff takes a lot of practice, so just wanted to share that with you. So I'll stop sharing. So does anybody have any questions or anything?